Where do I start? So, I've been leading a bit larger teams for the last, I don't know, 8, 9 years. And I started as an engineer back in 2000, forward. And it was a bumpy ride, because back in those days, leading people was very different for me and for the people that I was learning from. And that changed over time. And I think what I see today is much better, at least for me. I'll share why. So I wanted to talk a little bit about servant leadership. This is something that I don't see being adopted very much in our country, but I see that it works better for a lot of people, and hopefully I'll try to convince you that it makes sense. But let's start with me. My name is Popov. I lead the engineering team of Uber in Bulgaria. As I said, I started as a developer back in 2000. Spent, I don't know, maybe a dozen years coding and leading small teams. Then I moved forward and I started exploring the option of leading more people. And maybe during the conversation I'll tell you why that happened. I don't have a computer science background. I wanted to do physics in my life. And back in those days, that was hard. But then I came from a background where I was coding since, I don't know, maybe 10 years old. And it was easy to find a well-paid job in the field, and so I never went back. Hopefully one day I'll retire and I'll do physics. A bit of background, as I said, I did the Uber team right now. Before that I was for more than 4 years with a company called Skyscanner. It's a British company. I started with them in the UK, 2014. Start of 2014. About a year later, I managed to convince them to open a development site in Sofia. We moved some of the products that I was leading there in Sofia, and I basically founded their team here and led it for some time. Before that, I was with their main competitor, Kayak, in Boston. And before that, startups, a little bit of VMware. My career started in a German embedded company, so my experience is all over the place. Companies with tens of thousands of employees to companies with like 12 people. I'll skip the agenda. I think it's more natural to just go over the conversation. What is leading? So I have an idea of what it is for me in my head. But then I said, hey, how much of that is actually what people think about dating? And so I went to Google, of course. And the first thing I hit was the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it was saying leading is exercising leadership, and leadership is the act or an instance of leading. So it was okay. I'll stick to my definition. And my definition is simple. Leading is basically the ability to influence others to achieve something. Yeah? And so, with that being said, I want to make it very clear that this talk is not about managing people. It is about leading. Okay? Anyone can lead. A lot of people get frustrated when I tell them that I'm exploring for leadership with interns, people that are still in university, and they're saying, hey, Alex, what the fuck? I'm like, well, there's a good reason for that, because leadership basically means that when these people join my team and eventually stay with it, I can count on them to be vocal when they need to be vocal, to own their shit when they need to own their shit, to uplift others, etc. And that's a quality. That's not something that experience probably helps, but you either have it, or you're either inclined to be a leader or you're not. A bit of context though. I recently spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we evolved to where we are over the last, I'd say, million years. And it was funny because you think we know a lot about it in coming from school maybe, or the books that we read. But that field is evolving quite a lot, and I found that I have huge gaps in my understanding of what was happening with us as human beings. But it all started with basically gathering. So we were living in small groups. Our brains were actually bigger than what they are today, which was a fun fact. But there was plenty to live on, and so people were mostly gathering what the surrounding area provided. And for that, their organization did not require them to be very efficient. Like you can just grab your family, send the kids together, fruits, and at the end of the day, everyone was fine. In fact, there was a theory that we were way happier back then because an average person would work for, I don't know, about 3 to 5 hours, depending on how much fruit they could find, and that's it. And then they were enjoying the rest of the day. But as people were getting more, and the conditions under they lived were getting harder, they started hunting. And to be an efficient hunter, you need to work in a group. You cannot kill a mammoth if you just go out there with a spear, right? And so they started forming the first small bands of people that were acting as an organized group. And then farming came in, and that was a huge revolution because it allowed us to explode in terms of population. By that time, the groups of people that existed were very small. They were in the numbers of dozens of people, right? Farming, though, allowed that number to grow a lot more. And so with that came the need to organize much better. And we were still living in very small groups, that would kill about 150 people. There are multiple theories about why is that the limit there. The one I probably like the most is the so-called ghost theory. So in a group of 150 people, it's still possible to know directly or indirectly every individual in that group. Beyond that, it becomes really hard. But then the next revolution in our history came, and the Industrial Revolution led to the need to be able to efficiently organize into much larger groups. This is where the corporate world basically exploded as a function of society. And then we had the most recent one, the internet came to be, and we became a lot more global. And so with that, it became possible for a lot of organizations to become much bigger and bigger and bigger. The problem I see with all of that, and this is why I'm creating that context, is that this was not happening linearly. The gathering and scavenging stage took hundreds of thousands of years, and the hunting took like probably 100,000 years, etc., etc. We have proper farming for no more than, I don't know, somewhere between 30 and 50,000 years. And so our evolution as a species was not catching up. And so a lot of models that were being used to organize groups of people were redundant the moment they were actually happening. And I think that this is still happening. And so that led to the need to lead at various levels. And there are multiple styles of leadership today. The most classic ones are the autocratic one. Actually, it's still the predominant one. I think it's way outlived. But command and control is what I see like 8 out of 10 times when I work with an organization. And this is the one that basically the start of my career when I started leading people was the predominant style of leading. This is what I was doing back then. And so someone recently asked me, why did you go into that? Why did you want to lead? And then I never thought of it. And at that moment I tried to go back and think about it. And for me the answer was simple. I didn't like how my leaders were doing things. And so I wanted to be in control. And I asked for the opportunity. I was given the opportunity. But then what I did is exactly what they were doing. I still tried to tell people what to do, right? Because I had my opinions. It took me years to understand that this is not working. And so I'm hoping that I can probably save some of those years. What is trending recently is something called servant leadership. And it's a completely different style. It has its pros and cons. There's no silver bullet here, by the way. A lot of what I'm saying here is my personal opinion on the subject matter. But servant leadership works really well for me, and I'll try to justify why I think it will remain that. Pros and cons. So when you command and control, first of all, you have someone that runs an organization. It can be a team of 5 people, or it can be an organization of 200,000. But they're basically setting the vision, and they're commanding people what to do in order to achieve that vision. So there's a lot of control in this, and this is not a bad thing. At the end of the day, people want their environment to be predictable. And it's intuitive, because during our evolution, and this is why I was creating that context, it's how things work. If you have a band of 10 hunters, it's easy to tell each one of them, hey, you'll be staying there, you will have the spear, you will block the path of the animal there, etc., etc. Unfortunately, we're still doing the same thing. But now the organizations are huge. This I don't think works well. On the other side, servant leadership basically says the leader is an enabler. The job of a leader is not to decide what to be done. The job of a leader is to decide what is the problem and figure out who are the people that can solve that problem, and delegate that problem to those people and just trust them to do the right thing, right? And this is not something new. This is commonly practiced in especially the internet economy lately, during the last maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years, but that's not something new. If you start reading about where the roots of all this are, you see evidence of something like that happening in the 18th and the 19th century. The Prussian army, for example, was one of the smallest armies in Europe, but they were extremely efficient, extremely dangerous. They had a place on the map, simply because they were doing exactly that. They were letting people decide what to do, what is the right thing to do at any given moment. And the other thing that I recently observed as a pattern that kind of surprised me, I was trying to enrich my knowledge about what happened during the Second World War. And one interesting fact that came up was how Hitler was driving his war machine. At the start of the war, they were extremely successful, but he was just trusting his generals to do the right thing. They were strategizing, they were doing tactical stuff, they were delegating lower and lower and lower. And I thought that they lost the war because they didn't have the resources that the enemy had. But that was not true. They had millions of soldiers and the most modern equipment for that time in vast numbers. They could have crushed everyone else for a very small period of time. When things started fading is the moment where Hitler decided to drive that effort himself. He started ordering to stay and keep the land grab instead of retreating and regrouping. He started sacrificing large pieces of his army and things like that. His generals were not happy. They lost trust in him. He didn't trust them, etc., and things started going really bad. Until the very last moment when they were defending Germany, they still had huge resources that they could put into that war. And it was leadership that failed thereafter, not resources. Now, servant leadership is something that people don't practice for, I believe, 2 reasons. First of all, it's not intuitive. Each one of us has been programmed for hundreds of thousands of years to be in control their environment. And this makes us want to be the people that are deciding what should happen at any given moment. We are not trusting someone else to take care of our prosperity. We're not good at this. So what do you need to have in terms of qualities in order to have a servant leadership model? First of all, servant leadership basically means starts with the realization that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. And this is why propagating so fast in the internet economy is because people there are very smart and they quickly realize that there are smarter people there. And so, for example, when I'm building my teams, I'm trying to bring on board people that are smarter than me. What's the point of bringing people that are not smarter than me? And so if I have a bunch of engineers who are smarter than me, why should I be making the engineering decisions? Right? And that should propagate all the way down, I believe. Key rule in my teams is to make yourself redundant. And what that means is find the right people that will do the job better than you, delegate that job to them, and just trust them and support them into being able to deliver what you expect from them. They will fail, and that's fine. There's no guarantee that if you're in control, you're not going to fail. Okay? So failure is there. Here, the more important piece is how do we benefit from failure? And this is what command and control is not good at. Failure is something that you should learn from and avoid in the future. And so servant leadership basically says, I as a leader am providing the safety net for my people to feel free to fail and to not worry about it. Okay? But it all starts with trust. If I don't trust my team and they don't trust me, this just doesn't work. And trust is hard to build. So this is why it makes it hard to be a natural way of the predominant leadership philosophy. Because you either start building a team from scratch or inherit a team as a leader, and then you need to build that trust. The other piece here is that you really need to know your people. I've often seen teams fail because someone is really good at something, but he's not doing that thing. He's doing something else because someone else told him to do something else. Someone else made a decision of where that person should be invested. The other piece is, I already kind of covered it, but you need to convince people that your vision as a leader should be their vision. Telling them what to do is the wrong way to achieve it. Another thing that I believe is important is to, when you talk to people, talk less and listen more. And even when you talk, I try to ask questions instead of stating my opinions. Because often during those conversations, it turns out that I'm wrong and they're right. But when you make statements, people get biased. So they say, hey, Alex has so many years of experience, maybe he knows better, which often is not true. Okay? Delegate and protect. As I said, trust your people. Sometimes, like, recent example is we are doing this large effort around reliability. And basically, it started with one of my mid-level engineers who came and said, hey, he was with me in my previous team, said, hey, we were doing things much better before we were. Why are we not doing this here? And I said, good point, what are you going to do about it? And so he took the challenge to set things right. And when they started picking up, a lot of senior folks in the team came and said, hey, someone else should lead this in order for it to be successful. I said, no. Whoever is most passionate about it should lead this. Those senior people should be helping him achieve the goals. Right? And the other thing is uplift people. Why should those senior people help that person? Because he probably has less experience and less knowledge than them, but he's never going to get to their level if they don't help him get there. So developing people that you count on is extremely important in that format. So why servant leadership? Why not just do the classic command and control? It seems to have worked for hundreds, thousands of years. I see a couple of problems with that. First of all, when you're, like, a lot of us are smart people, and a lot of us lead other people. But there's a glass ceiling there. I have 24-hour day, I have, I don't know, maybe about 20 years of experience in the field, but I don't have 40 years of experience in the field, and I don't have a 240-hour day. So how much can I scale? Sooner or later you need to trust someone else to help you, right? And right now what I'm doing, or I started doing, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, is to ask people to do everything for me. And there was an inflection point in my career when one of my mentors and managers came and said, hey, what is your succession plan? And I said, when do you want my resignation? He said, no, you don't understand. In order for me to put you to the next level, you need to be redundant on your current level. Someone else needs to do all of your job. And you need to be doing mine. And I need to see how you do my job. And then I'll put you to the level where I am. And those of us who are engineers will see the recursive pattern here. You can do this with every level, up until the interns that are spending 6 months. And so a principle with my team is make yourselves redundant. I'm making myself redundant by hiring the right people who are going to be doing my job, and I'm asking them to make themselves redundant by building their teams so that they can do the job I'm asking of them, etc., etc. And it goes down. The other piece here is that I don't know everything that I need to know in order to do the job well, right? So there are people, as I said, that are much better at multiple things than I am. Ideally, I want to be the most stupid person in the room when we decide on something, because then I know that we should do something better than what I would come up with if I'm using just my brain. So it goes beyond competencies. You find the right people who understand the specific domain where you need to solve problem set, you bring them on board, and you delegate the responsibility to them to make decisions. And this works really, really well. Resilience. If I'm the one that does the command and control piece, and my plane crashes tomorrow, what happens with this organization? What happens with the product they're building? What happens with the value they're bringing to this work? I've seen teams in my past that go to hell because a specific person disappeared. And I don't want that. I don't want to leave ruins behind. I want to retire someday. I don't want to be the piece that is making it all possible all the time. It also allows rapid invention. As I said, a key component here is to create a safe environment where people can make mistakes and feel comfortable with it. In fact, I'm often like, September was a really good month. I was talking about reliability. September was a really good month for us. We had just 2 outages, when usually it's around 30. And so I said, whoa, that's kind of an anomaly. What happened? And so I started challenging people, and they were coming back to me and saying, hey, it's fine. It's just either we were lucky or it's something else that we did that made it not great. We were improving constantly, but I didn't expect that those constant improvements would lead to such a drastic drop in outages. So we were probably just lucky. But people still felt comfortable with failing, because after every failure, nobody, like my past was someone comes to me and says, oh, you motherfucker, what did you do? When we fail at Uber or Skyscanner or one of those organizations that work, I believe, better, people are just saying, well, life, we do a post-mortem, we find out how this will never happen again, and we make reasonable decisions around how to make the systems do the job for us. When you create that safety, it's very easy for people to try new things. They're no longer afraid to try new things. In a lot of the command and control organizations, people don't try new things because they know that 9 out of 10 will fail, and then someone will come and point a finger. This is not a good fit, right? Quality of life, that's the other piece. As I said, ideally, I don't want to work 18 hours a day because it all depends on me. I want to work 8 hours a day and spend the rest of the time with my family and friends. How is that going to happen at an organization that is count on people to do the right thing. And that leads to the fact that you're setting a direction, and they are deciding on how to move in that direction. And then, in the case where you have command and control, you need to constantly take care of aligning people, of making sure that everyone is doing the right thing to go into that direction. And that was using a huge piece of my time. Here, you just set the goals and you trust that people will be doing the right thing. They are not always doing the right thing, but they are self-regulating themselves. They're checking if they're doing the right thing. They're checking if they're... As an enabler, it's my job to answer questions like, hey, can you take a look at what we decided to do? Instead of answering questions like, hey, what should we do? Okay? And that combined basically makes us a lot more competitive. People that work 8 hours a day, producing the same amount of work that we were producing in a different environment, working 12 hours a day, are a lot better at what they do. It's as simple as that. I'm running out of time, so I'll speed through it. So, as I said, fear of redundancy is probably the most tricky part here. We have all grew in a society that tells us that we should be irreplaceable. And I've seen a lot of examples of people making themselves irreplaceable and hurting the ultimate goal. I already talked about making yourself redundant to go to the next level. I was biased by that environment and past. My schools, my parents, my university was telling me that I should be afraid of becoming redundant. This is not the case. In order to get to the next level, you need to be redundant. Creating the right environment helps a lot. It's probably 50% of the job is done if you create a safe environment where people can just feel good about experimenting. To not worry about being given something that is beyond their competencies, and this is how you uplift them. You give them problems they have not solved in the past. You give them challenges that they don't believe that they will crack. And they should feel safe about it and move forward. Make their mistakes, learn, move forward. Make their mistakes, learn, move forward. And the other piece here is that as leaders, no matter whether you manage other people or you're in an individual contributor role, at the end of the day that allows you to not just get what you can produce as a person in your 24-hour day. The outcome of your work, of your effort, can be the outcome of 1,000 people doing that thing. And with that, I will wrap up. Thank you.
So, it seems like we have around 5 minutes for questions, right?
Cool.
Any questions?
Cool.
We have one, just a second. Alex.
So my question is from the point of view of a worker, not a leader. How do you give feedback to a command and conquer leader? Yeah.
For me, what ultimately solved a lot of problems was to start working with data. Every time I work with a new startup or my teams or something else, first thing I want to put in place is metrics. When I came to Uber, one of my first questions was, okay, so we have this amazing team that is building a lot of code on a daily basis. What is the impact? And they couldn't answer that question because we didn't have business metrics, because we didn't know why we're doing what we're doing. We have it in our heads, but it's not quantified. And so we don't know if we are making a huge progress or we are making tiny steps. We just know that we are moving in that direction. Sorry. So I'd say put some data on it. In Skyscanner it was very easy because there was a lot of data under everything, and so if I disagree with something, I would go out there and I say, hey, I will commit, I will disagree and commit, we move in the direction that you're asking me to moving to. But let's see how the numbers work that out. And so 2 months, 3 months later, you can come up with the numbers and say, hey, I told you. And there's no finger pointing here. You just go there and, like, leaders make mistakes just like everyone else. If you have the data, though, it's very easy. You both look at the data and say, oh shit, let's change direction. And that's it.
One more question?
Hello, Alex. Thanks for a great talk. I have a question that you said that you have experience all over the place. Well, have you used this type of servant leadership in smaller companies, and what are your thoughts on that?
So I'd say that the size of the team is not the key factor here. You can do both in both types, in all sizes of companies. I think it's more about how you hire people and what is the philosophy around getting a team together. If you get on board people that are, as I said, I'm interviewing for leadership in interns because I want to see the ownership, I want to see the ability to say no when they believe that something is being done wrong, etc., etc. If you have a team, whether this is your budget or you just inherited something that someone else built and it's not suitable for that type of environment, you can try and do something else. You need to have people with the right mindset in order to be able to achieve a framework, the framework that I described.
Thank you.
And it seems like we have time for one more question.
Thank you. Great talk. Thank you. It's completely logical, completely agree with you, but at some point, the useless leader must act. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine that you have software engineers, extremely good, proven, make a really good decisions. You start a new project and you have to choose the technological stack. Let's make it more concrete. One say Java, the other say Node.js or Go, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So they're in conflict between each other.
Yeah.
And somebody must make the decision, which technology. But it doesn't matter what you choose, one will be angry because it's his choice is not taken into account. How do you deal with that situation? How a leader will act in this situation?
So I get what you're saying. There are situations where there are no clear answer to what needs to be done. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I keep saying democracy is great, but the ship has a captain. And so your job as an enabler, I believe, is to resolve those conflicts. Ideally, they shouldn't happen, because if you have a good framework that creates rationality behind such decisions, 9 out of 10 such decisions are made without you. In the case where it's not clear, you need to step in and you need to make that call. And it needs to be a justified call. Why did I choose you over your peer? Is a question that I need to be able to answer. And sometimes the question is, I don't know, let's just try the first thing, and then we shall try the second thing if the first thing doesn't work for us. Experimentation helps a lot. So in these environments, if you can fail fast, you're good. So if we don't know, let's do both for, I don't know, a month, and see the prototypes with the two, and then figure out what has pros and cons, and what are those, and decide on that. So, as I said, be rational, put data behind your decisions, and people rarely stay frustrated in cases like these because they see that you're trying to support their case. It will slow us down for a month, but over the long, as you said, choosing a technology stack can have impacts for years, right? So I'd rather lose that month, but again, this is a specific case. You need to be reasonable and think. Basically, the job of a leader is to just think and resolve.
There was another question over here.
I take 2 short questions. Should I pick one of them or?
I'll try to be short in my answers.
You said that when you fail, you and your team do post-mortem.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So basically, we sit in a room and we answer questions like, why did that happen? What was the impact of what happened? How will you make sure that it doesn't happen again? Etc., etc. So there are templates, you can just check it out in Google. A lot of companies are doing that, especially in their engineering teams. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that in other parts of the organization. It should happen everywhere, it's applicable everywhere.
Okay. And my second one is how you deal with experimentation and meeting your deadlines.
Very broad question. I'm not sure how to answer that. Experimentation is something that you should account into your estimations. If you don't have clear answers about what will work or what will not work, it's fine. Run your experiments, tell everyone that you will not meet those deadlines, and that's it. Now, sometimes those deadlines can cost a lot of money. Then you need to make a choice before you have enough data. The biggest challenge in leading is to make decisions with limited data. And I keep telling people, as you grow from an individual contributor role, where I keep telling like technology is easy, but leading is hard. Technology is easy because most of the time it can be black and white. When you lead, when you need to make decisions around, and the higher the abstraction of those decisions, the less data you have. Sometimes I have like 40% chance to make the right call, and 40% is just good enough because my other options are probably like 15%. I rarely end up in a case where I am like 90% certain that something will work. And the higher you go in the level making, in the decision making of an organization, the less information you work with. Especially in such disruptive environments like Uber, where you're basically building the road, you're not following someone who already made all the mistakes. We are making all the mistakes. So you need to feel comfortable with the fact that you'll be making mistakes, and making a decision with like 40% chance to be successful is just fine. It's better than my other options. 6 out of 10 times though, it will fail. That's fine. We shall learn from that failure, and the next time our decision will not have 40% chance to succeed, because we already have additional information to make an 80 or 90% chance to fall.
That was a great short answer. Okay, I think we have 1 more minute for 1 more question. Anyone willing to ask?
Hi, thanks for your talk. As someone who has recently become a team lead in a research and development team, how does one continue to feel useful after a day of serving others? Like, I'm talking really intrinsically feeling useful and seeing the product of
Quantify. I'll go back to my data point. You need to have clear goals for yourselves. What do you want to achieve as a leader, right? And you put like 3 goals, because if you have like 15, it's going to be hard to make impact anywhere. Put 3 goals for yourselves. I want to grow that team. I want to make the life of those people better. I want to increase the quality of the product that we're building, whatever. You decide what is important and what is not, and you quantify it somehow. We need to go from 3 nines of availability to 4 nines of availability. My culture score of my team should go from 50 to 80, whatever. But make sure that you have something that tells you, am I doing a good job or not? And the more quantifiable those are, the better, because you can sometimes spend 6 months doing something and realize that it was the wrong thing you were doing, or you can spend a week doing the wrong thing and realize that it's the wrong thing and fix it. Right? So try and think about it as every problem, I believe, can be solved the same way. It's just another problem. It's not a technical problem, but if you apply the frameworks that we're using as an IC to solve technical problems, I assure you it still works. Figure out what is important, figure out where to spend your time, quantify that.
Maybe another way of putting the question is how to deal with the pressure of, or is it not pressure that you also need to like code and engineer yourself rather than just enabling people?
You need to very clearly clarify with your leadership what is the role. What are they expecting from you? Is there a clear competency framework that says that in this role I need to do these things? This is my job, this is my goal. If that's not clear, your first step should be to go to your managers and say, what do you expect from me in this role? Okay? We don't get born knowing what to do, right? We learn far more complex things like speaking and various other things the problems at this level are super simple. You just need to, as I said, be rational, think about it. How will I solve that problem? Well, even if you choose the wrong thing, you'll find out soon. But you need to act. You shouldn't be afraid. Go out there and say, what is the right thing to do? Ask someone that you want to be your mentor. Ask someone that you like in that role.
That was a great talk. One more time. Thank you, Alex.